The surprising thing about making friends after 50 is that the problem is usually not personality. At 25, friendship often arrived through places you already had to be. After 50, the rooms that once kept putting the same people beside you have quietly disappeared, and now nobody has replaced the machinery. You may still know how to talk to people, you may still be warm, competent, interested, and capable of conversation. But conversation is not the whole system. Earlier in life, there were classrooms, workplaces, shared houses, school gates. There were sports sidelines, lunch breaks, and children who needed collecting. Those settings did something friendship advice rarely names. They made the same people appear again. They gave you a reason to speak before you had to make the relationship explicit. The private difficulty after 50 is not always meeting someone once. It is knowing what to do after a pleasant conversation, when the old script ends and nobody has told you the new one. Most advice about making friends starts too late. It begins at the moment you are already standing in front of another person, trying to be relaxed. So, it talks about confidence, small talk, smiling, openness, and courage. Those things can matter, but they are not the machinery. The machinery is exposure, not exposure in the frightening sense. Exposure in the ordinary sense. Seeing the same person often enough that their face becomes familiar, their rhythm becomes known, and a conversation can continue without feeling like a performance. This is why a one-off event can leave you feeling oddly defeated. You went, you spoke, you were pleasant, and then everyone dispersed back into lives you could not enter. Nothing was wrong with you. The context did not repeat. The promise here is not that friendship after 50 is easy. It is that the problem is more precise than most people make it. If you can understand the conditions friendship actually needs, you can stop trying to manufacture closeness from willpower. You can start choosing rooms that keep bringing people back. Then, when familiarity has begun to accumulate, you can move first by a small margin. Not dramatically, just before the moment dissolves back into politeness. One of the classic studies behind this comes from Leon Festinger, Stanley Schachter, and Kurt Bach. In 1950, they studied friendship patterns among married student residents in MIT's Westgate housing. What mattered was not only who seemed similar on paper, it mattered where people lived, which doors they passed, and how often their routes crossed. Residents were more likely to become friends with people physically nearby, but the more revealing finding was functional distance. Someone living near a stairway could become socially closer to people on another floor than to someone technically nearer but outside their ordinary path. In plain English, friendship followed the architecture. The building was quietly deciding who became familiar. That matters because many adults over 50 are no longer living inside buildings like that socially. Their week may contain errands, family responsibilities, appointments, online messages, and scattered events. But scattered contact is not the same as repeated contact. The room has to bring people back often enough for familiarity to do some of the work. That brings us to Robert Zionk's 1968 work on what psychologists call the mere exposure effect. The simple version is this. Repeated exposure can make something feel more familiar and often more liked, especially when the experience is neutral or pleasant. Robert Bornstein reviewed the evidence in a 1989 meta-analysis in Psychological Bulletin. The effect was real, but not magical. Repetition does not make you like someone you actively dislike. It does not turn a bad room into a good one. But it helps explain why the same person can feel easier to approach on the fourth encounter than on the first. The face has stopped being entirely new and the conversation has a place to resume. The nervous system has a little more evidence that this person belongs in your week. This is the part most friendship advice skips. It tells you to enter a room as if each encounter is a test of your social ability. But research on proximity and familiarity suggests something kinder. The question is not whether you are good at talking. It is whether your life brings you into contact with the same people often enough for conversation to become easier. Then comes the initiation problem, because repeated contact helps, but repeated contact alone can remain stuck at the level of pleasant recognition. You can spend months saying hello to someone and never cross the tiny bridge into friendship. That bridge often feels larger than it is. In a series of studies published in Psychological Science in 2018, Erica Boothby and colleagues studied what they called the liking gap. After conversations, people consistently thought their conversation partner liked them less than the partner actually did. They found this pattern in short laboratory conversations, in a community workshop, and in longer acquaintance settings among university students. The person you spoke to last week may have walked away thinking more warmly of you than you realize, which means the hesitation before suggesting a next meeting is often based on a signal that is not reliable. That does not mean every invitation will be accepted. It does not mean you should ignore discomfort, pressure someone, or treat politeness as consent. It means the internal forecast, they probably did not enjoy that as much as I did, is often too pessimistic, and that is where weak ties become important. Mark Granovetter's 1973 work on weak ties showed that looser connections can connect us to people, information, and opportunities outside our closest circle. Gillian Sandstrom and Elizabeth Dunn later showed in 2014 that small interactions with weak ties can contribute to a sense of belonging. The point is simple. An acquaintance is not a failed friend. An acquaintance is often the bridge layer. It is where repetition, familiarity, and a small next invitation can begin to turn a room into a relationship. This is what the research looks like from the inside. Robert is 57, recently retired, and he has joined a Tuesday walking group. He did not join because he wanted to have a vulnerable conversation with strangers. He joined because he wanted a reason to leave the house at the same time each week. For 3 Tuesdays in a row, he walks beside the same man. They talk about the weather, the route, a football result, and a knee that is not improving as quickly as advertised. It is easy, not deep, but easy. At the end of each walk, Robert says, "See you next week." Then he gets in his car and goes home. The sentence feels friendly, but it also lets the room do the work. That was how work used to function. The building, the meeting, the shared problem, the same corridor, the same people. If a conversation did not go further today, there was always tomorrow. But the walking group is looser than work. Nobody is going to schedule the coffee or put the two of them in the same meeting room next Thursday at 10. The old machinery has done what it can. Now a smaller move is required. Carol is 54 and her social calendar has thinned since a series of life changes she did not quite plan for. She joins a local history course because the subject interests her. Before class, she starts talking to the same woman. They laugh about the lecturer's habit of losing his glasses while wearing them, and they compare notes on a documentary neither of them quite finished. 3 weeks in, Carol realizes she looks for this woman when she enters the room. That recognition is small, but it matters. Then class ends. Everyone gathers their bags. Chairs scrape, coats go on, and people disappear into separate cars. Carol is not shy. She is not incapable. She simply reaches the edge of the old script, where the missing step is not conversation, it is continuity. Someone has to say, "Are you coming next week? Shall we sit together?" That sentence is not dramatic and it may not even sound like friendship, but it changes the structure. The practical answer is to stop judging social opportunities by whether they feel exciting on the first day. Judge them by whether they can repeat. A good setting for friendship has a few recognizable qualities. You see the same people repeatedly. There is something to do together, so conversation does not have to carry the whole weight. There is a small margin before or after the activity where informal talk can happen. And there's a way to return without issuing a grand invitation. That is why a weekly class may work better than a one-off lecture. A volunteer shift may work better than a networking mixer. A walking group may work better than an open social night where everyone is trying to be impressive. Research on social programs for older adults, including reviews by Katan and colleagues in 2005 and Masi and colleagues in 2011, suggests that active recurring participation tends to work better than passive attendance. This is not therapy or treatment. It is a practical filter for choosing better rooms. If an activity lets you sit silently in a crowd and leave without anyone noticing, it may be pleasant, but it is not doing much friendship work. If an activity gives you a role, a rhythm, a repeated group, and small reasons to speak, it is doing more. So the useful question is not, where can I meet people? The useful question is, where can I become familiar? That changes the search. You're not looking for the perfect friend. You are looking for a context where the same people can gradually stop being strangers. Then comes the small initiation. Not, we should get together sometime. That sentence is too vague to survive ordinary life, so use something smaller and more located. The words can be simple. Are you coming next week? Shall we sit together? Or, I usually get a coffee after this. You would be very welcome to join me. Or, I enjoyed talking today. Would you fancy doing this walk together next Tuesday? The power of those sentences is that they do not ask the other person to decide whether you are now friends. They only ask whether the next contact should be a little easier. That is the margin. You are lowering the threshold. You are making the next meeting more likely before the room has a chance to scatter everyone again. The objection is obvious. It may feel awkward. It may feel as if you are revealing too much need. But notice how modest the sentence actually is. It does not say, will you become important to me? It says, shall we make the next ordinary moment slightly easier to repeat? That is the practical task. Choose rooms that repeat. Then make one small next invitation while the conversation is still warm. Not because it guarantees friendship, because it gives friendship a place to begin. There is a deeper dignity in this than most adult friendship advice allows. Friendship is not always found. It is allowed to accumulate. That is a different way of thinking. It means you do not have to create instant intimacy to prove you are socially alive. You do not have to turn a stranger into a confidant in one conversation. You do not have to perform brightness, vulnerability, or charm on demand. You need places where ordinary contact can become recognizable. You need enough repetition for the other person to become part of the landscape of your week. You need small openings where a sentence can move the relationship one step further without forcing it to become more than it is ready to be. You are not looking for one perfect social moment. You are looking for a place where ordinary moments can repeat. And then, eventually, there is the threshold, the moment at the end of the walk or the moment when the class finishes, the moment when everyone reaches for coats, bags, phones, keys. You can let the moment close. Sometimes that is the right thing. But sometimes there is warmth there. Sometimes there has been recognition for several weeks. Sometimes the next sentence is smaller than your fear makes it sound. The person who makes friends after 50 is not always the most outgoing person in the room. Often they are the person who can tolerate 1 second less certainty. That is not a personality transplant, it is a threshold shift, and it is available to quieter people too. So perhaps the question is not whether you are good enough at making friends. That question puts too much pressure on the self. The better question is whether your week contains a place where friendship has any chance to accumulate, a place where the same people can see you again, a place where you can become familiar without auditioning, a place where the next sentence does not have to be large. Because after 50, friendship often begins less like a confession and more like continuity. The same room, the same walk, the same chair, the same person, recognized a little sooner each time. And then one sentence spoken before everyone disappears to their cars. If you are interested in the science behind connection, the Connection Letter is a free weekly research digest I send every Saturday. Each issue features one evidence-based finding, one practical takeaway, and one question to consider. The link is in the description. But before you leave, carry this question with you. Where is one place you could return to next week, and what is the one sentence you could say before the moment disappears?